Alright, so my voice sounds pretty bad still. I just came off of strep throat or a cold or something. I'm not 100% sure what it was anymore. Thought I knew. I don't know. And I know I teased the old Super Mario Brothers anime movie as my next movie review. But I had the opportunity to see the new TMNT movie, Mutant Mayhem. And I need to talk about it. Like, not because I hated it, because I didn't. Not because I loved it either, because I also did not love it. But specifically because I have so many thoughts about this movie, and I need to work through them. And I can't think of any other way. I tried to sit down and write out some bullet points, and I couldn't do it. The only way I can think of to work through my thoughts in this movie are to just talk them out. And so I'm going to do it in front of the camera and turn it into content. This movie was weird, man. Like, it wasn't a bad movie, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of stuff I liked here. Like, the story was kind of basic. You have the misfit characters who are shunned by society and they want to be accepted. Like, it's pretty typical. That's pretty typical of TMNT. They kind of turn it up to 11 here with Splinter realizing that the boys wanted to interact with the human world when they were kids. Like younger kids anyway, because they're still kids technically. And trying to take them out into the world only for people to just be terrible to them. So now he's like super racist towards humans. Convinced that any human that sees them under any context is just going to want to kill them and or harvest their blood to make more mutants. Which I don't know why would he think that if he thinks humans hate mutants? That's beside the point. It's a running gag in the movie, and it actually is pretty funny by the time it resolves. So yeah, Splinter's apprehension, his anxiety, his wariness about humans is turned up to 11 and becomes a full-blown xenophobia. So it's not entirely run-of-the-mill, it's not entirely bog standard for the kind of thing that a Turtles story does anyway. But at its barest bones, it's the kind of thing that a Turtles story usually does anyway. And just like is pretty typical for a Turtles story, the situation starts to change when the Turtles meet April, who is the first human to really accept them. Though in the context of this movie, she accepts them as quickly as she does because they help her get her scooter back from some thieves, and she sees them as the heroes who helped her. So the entire plot of this movie is about them trying to take down this supervillain who's been stealing components for something in the style of like an old Batman story or something, where they have to sit in front of the Bat computer and figure out what all the components could possibly build, that kind of thing. And they want to take him down, stop him from doing whatever horrible thing he plans to do, and record it, because April is an amateur journalist. And then they can turn that over, and the people will see the Turtles as heroes, and they'll be accepted. And that's all well and good, because at the end of the movie, and there's going to be spoilers in this, I'm sorry, that's just the nature of the kind of ramble that I am filming for you guys today. The movie does round out to having the Turtles realize that acceptance thing probably isn't going to happen. And the entire city is being threatened, and they're going to have to make very public efforts to try to stop that threat. And yet, they decide that they have to try to be heroes, even if there's no chance of success, and even if it's not going to make anybody like them. And so that's all good. It's again kind of standard. Like, it's not even just unique to a TMNT story, right? Like, it's kind of bog standard in general, but it's well done here. And this whole plot line is punctuated by a really solid soundtrack, first of all, but also some really well done action sequences. The action in this is really snappy and quick and intense and interesting. I enjoyed it a lot. But I have so many problems with this that it makes it hard for me to really feel happy with the way this movie came together. Like, first of all, I just wasn't a big fan of Splinter in this. like, first of all, he's a xenophobe. That sucks. Like, one of the things I've always liked about basically every version of Splinter is that he's wise enough to know not to generalize. Like, yes, it's safer for them sequestered away from humans, and he wants his boys to be safe, but he doesn't insist that they remain separate from humans because he thinks all humans are horrible. He recognizes, he's wise enough to recognize that generalizing all humans that way is wrong. That there are going to be humans that aren't going to be horrible to his boys. It's just that he can't risk them finding those humans until a certain point. This version of Splinter did not come off as wise. He's strong, he's a good fighter, but he did not come off as wise. In fact, I found him mostly annoying throughout this, and that was really a shame. This is also, much like the Michael Bay version, an iteration of Splinter who is self-taught in the art of ninjutsu. And his motivation is that he wants to be able to protect his boys, and he teaches them so that they can protect themselves. And I believe that any version of Splinter is a cool enough person, is a strong enough person, that would be enough motivation for him to learn to be an expert ninja. I can accept that. Just like in that Michael Bay version, I could accept that. But that removes all of the in-universe cultural stuff from Splinter's background and makes it impossible to adapt something like that. And I don't know if this was just like mostly speculation by the news outlets I was skimming through, but I've been seeing online that apparently there is buzz that there could be like a series spun off of this or a sequel. And doing either of those things would be really tough without that aspect of the lore to jump off of. Just like in the Michael Bay version, it was fine for that one movie. Because even though there was a version of the Shredder in that movie, which he's also tied to that greater in-universe lore stuff, right? It was just some guy who was usurping the identity of the Shredder for his own purposes. It wasn't really him. So it was fine for that one movie, which I still think is pretty good. I think the first Michael Bay live-action Turtles movie is pretty good. But then the sequel rolled around, and they tried to bring a little bit of that in, along with some of the other wilder, out-there sci-fi elements into what was a pretty grounded movie, and it just felt awkward. And I feel like if they tried to bring in that aspect of the lore to this iteration, it would also feel awkward for similar reasons. There were moments with the Turtles, like their rapport with each other was really strong. I liked that. And a lot of the humor, especially them bouncing off of April for humor, was good. It got laughs out of me. But, man, they just had no individual personality in this, aside for one or two moments here or there, where we were, in the case of Raph, a couple of times shown that he is an angry, fight-loving guy. And we got to see Leo take charge at one point and organize the team actually very well. But when it came to Donnie and Mikey, like, I guess less so for Donnie than for Mikey, but like, their traits felt mostly informed. Like, we were told, especially in the case of Mikey, we were told, oh, he's good at improvising. We didn't really see that, because when they were fighting, they were all just kind of reacting to stuff, right? They were all kind of improvising equally. And part of the reason for that is because when they were interacting, when you weren't getting those really strong moments of them bouncing humor off of each other, the rest of the time they were just all acting like the same exact character all the time. And like for whatever reason, that's the direction they chose to go with this. And it meant that we had practically no time to get to know them as individual characters, because they were just acting like the same kind of annoying teenager the entire time. Like, there was some of that in the trailer that I watched. I don't know if there was more than one trailer, but I watched one of the trailers way back when. There was some of that in there, and I just kind of assumed that wouldn't be the whole movie. But it was basically the whole movie. And that really frustrated me, because they did not feel like unique characters. The one exception is, I guess, when Mikey was hanging out with Mondo Gecko. I will give them that. We got to see a little bit of a more traditional Mikey in there. But for the most part, they just felt like annoying kids. And I guess that's what they were going for, because it was very deliberate, right? I didn't think it was a good choice, though. Really liked April, though. I thought she was great, playing a more anxious, nerdy, insecure version of the character that we know, who has to kind of come into her own, but is also very smart and capable and witty and sarcastic in of herself. No complaints there. The villain being a souped-up version of, I don't know, he goes by different names, I guess, but he's Stockman Fly in the first Nickelodeon cartoon. And here he wasn't Stockman, though. He was just a mutant that Stockman created. He was interesting. His motivations were basically, I hate humans, I'm going to mutate them and kill the ones that don't mutate. But he was an interesting enough villain. They made him a parallel to Splinter, which you could see coming from a mile away. But it ended up working. It worked thematically for the movie. And he was a threat. He was really powerful. He could lift cars while he flew. He could throw mutants that were as big as him around. And at the end of the movie, let's just say he gets a bit of an upgrade that makes him a genuine threat, even beyond the kind of threat he already was. But bafflingly, and I think this is the thing that annoyed me most about the movie, is that the movie made all of the mutants, all of them, the result of, aside from, I guess, Splinter and the Turtles, like they were the result of it too, but it wasn't intentional, but all of the other mutants were the result of direct, intentional experimentation by Baxter Stockman. I don't love Baxter Stockman anyway, any version of him really, but like, I would think that was stupid even if it wasn't specifically him. Like, he becomes a non-character in the movie anyway, like we only see him a tiny bit, but like, it could have been like TCRI or somebody made all of them intentionally, because they were an entity in this movie too, and I still would have felt the same way, because they all end up with Superfly is the name of the villain following him, aside from Splinter and the Turtles. And this is the biggest spoiler that I'm gonna include in this review, and I apologize, but the Turtles end up flipping all of them aside from Superfly. Which means that by the end of this movie, all of the classic TMNT mutants that were advertised as being in this movie, aside from Superfly, are allies of the Turtles. Definitively. They're like a big happy family at the end. So again, if they do decide to follow up this story in another medium, how could they possibly continue it? Bebop and Rocksteady are their brothers. Like, the designs on all of them were really solid. I liked them a lot. Like, as much as I like Leatherhead in the 2012 show, right? The more classic design for Leatherhead here was definitely welcome, just as an example. And on that note, the art design and the animation in this are pretty strong in general. I bring that up because I'm going to mention one more thing that I didn't like in a minute, and it relates to that. But, the choice to make them all this one big homogenous group, and then to have the Turtles turn them on their father figure, turn them against their father figure, very easily, because obviously they had to do it very easily to fit within the runtime of a single movie. I really disliked that. that just, it removes so many potential storytelling engines from the lore of this universe, from the storytelling engine of this universe. So I'm fumbling over words a little bit because again, I didn't script this. This is very unscripted. But you get what I'm saying. Even if they were never going to follow this up, even if this was a standalone movie, maybe that's the intention. Maybe, again, those headlines I was skimming, they were being speculative, right? Maybe that was never the intention of the studio behind this movie. But as a Turtles fan, the Turtles is a multiverse. And when I look at a different version of the Turtles and their team, I like to be able to imagine how the differences between this version of the Turtles and other versions that I've seen will lead to differences in their story going forward. Even aspects of their story that I'm never going to see. And here, it just doesn't feel like there are any aspects of their story left to see. And that bums me out. I don't know. I would have preferred fewer mutant characters and I guess a slightly more open ending? I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority there? Also, again, going back to the art direction and stuff, again, the designs are really cool. Thought they were very unique and interesting. The animation's really solid. Very well done. But a lot of the gags in this, and that carries into the art style because a lot of it was like art style specific stuff. It goes really deep into the gross out territory. Like the Turtles have always been kind of gross anyway. Because they're oozy mutants, you know? Like their world is an oozy mutant world. But it went really deep into it here. A few times, to the point that it started to feel kind of mean-spirited. And like, maybe I'm just a little oversensitive to that kind of thing, because I'm not a huge fan of gross-out humor in the first place. But it felt kind of mean-spirited. Right down to the core of some of the characters' designs. And that bummed me out a little bit. This is Turtles, not Ren and Stimpy. I guess what it comes down to is, again, I didn't hate this movie. It was perfectly serviceable. I laughed a few times. There were a few times that I was genuinely moved by the emotions of the characters. The action was solid. But is this really the TMNT thing that we wanted? Fans of Turtles, is this what we want? Because at the end of the day, whether it was a solid movie or not, I don't think this is what I wanted. I don't think this is what I wanted the next TMNT thing to be. Like, I picked up a few of the action figures from this a while back, and I'm glad I got them because again, I think the character designs for this are really cool. And I'm not sad that I watched it or anything. Like, I feel like for a completely like new and fresh, original animated theatrical take on these characters, we could have gotten so much. We could have gotten something that was so much better. But yeah, there it is. There's my horribly rambly thoughts on the new TMNT movie, Mutant Mayhem. If you guys have any thoughts, weigh in the comment section down below. Tell me I'm wrong. Explain to me why. Make me feel better about this and my reservations about it, please. I would welcome that. I'll probably argue with you anyway, but I'd welcome it. Or agree with me. Like, maybe I'm right. Maybe this isn't what we as a fandom needed. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, yeah. I don't even know how to end this video. I'm just gonna... I'll talk to you guys later.